All right. There's a situation really impactful that we need to examine today. We've been looking deep into the sources to really get a handle on it. So today we're doing a deep dive into the killing of Palestinian activist Aed Halen in the occupied West Bank, killed by an Israeli settler. We'll look at what happened right after the hunger strike, the protests, but maybe more importantly, try to unpack the deeper reasons why this specific incident feels so significant.
Yeah, and our mission for you listening is to go beyond just the headlines.
Yeah.
We're using recent reports, expert commentary, to not just lay out what happened, but to really try and grasp the wider implication for the people involved, obviously, but also the systemic stuff it highlights.
Okay, so at the heart of it is Aed Halen's death. He was 31, an activist shot dead just last week. And the core detail here, killed by an Israeli settler, Eunan Levy, during an attack on Halen's village that's in the southern occupied West Bank. And something that jumps out, especially if you follow international affairs, is that Levy, he was already under EU sanctions, which kind of underscores the challenge of accountability, doesn't it, even with that external pressure?
Right, and Howling himself, he wasn't unknown. He had that connection to the film No Other Land, the Oscar-winning one, so his work was already getting international attention.
Okay, so what about the immediate aftermath? The sources paint a pretty stark picture, right?
Extremely stark. The contrast in legal outcomes is, well, it's jarring. Levy, the settler, he was released after a really brief time under house arrest. Very brief. But at the same time, 8 Palestinians from Howling's village, they're still in detention.
It's still held.
Yeah. And for the family, one source described it as, adding insult to injury, especially because Israel is still holding Howling's body. They haven't returned it.
Right. That detail is crucial.
It feeds this perception, which comes up in the reporting, of a law of the jungle, where the excuse is often no evidence for releasing settlers, even when there seems to be pretty clear video of the actual shooting.
That video evidence point keeps coming up. And beyond the legal side, the human cost must be just immense. Can you speak to that? The family, the community, especially with the body being withheld.
It's hard to even imagine. I mean, the sources talk about his mother just holding his clothes because there's no body to bury or kiss goodbye. Yeah. And he leaves behind 3 little boys. The oldest is only 5. Their mother, Hannity, she said they're all too young to understand their father won't put them to bed anymore.
Just devastating.
Absolutely. And understandably, has triggered a significant protest. 60 Palestinian women from his village are on hunger strike now. Their demands are clear: the unconditional return of his body and the release of all the men arrested from the mourning house.
Unconditional return. But Israel has conditions, right?
Very strict ones, according to the reports. The funeral can't be during the day. It has to be limited to just 15 people. And it has to happen outside the village.
Wow. Okay. So this whole situation with withholding the body, it's tragic in Aed's case, but our sources indicate this isn't like a one-off thing. It's part of a bigger pattern.
Exactly. It's a long-standing practice, decades long, apparently.
Yeah.
Israeli forces withholding Palestinian bodies. And it's not just about denying dignity, though it certainly does that. It's used as a bargaining chip for negotiation.
A bargaining chip, how does that work? What's the rationale?
The thinking behind it seems to be to prevent collective mourning, to stop Palestinians who've been killed by Israelis from being honored as heroes in their communities. It has a devastating effect, obviously. Deny his family's closure and the scale. One source mentioned hundreds of Palestinians who are numbered and put in graveyards.
In graveyards, basically held by the state.
Effectively, yes, as bargaining chips. It's a deliberate strategy, it seems, to break the spirits of the village, maybe halt activism. And Halen, specifically, he was very loved and very popular among the village. So using this tactic, in his case, it hits that community particularly hard. It targets that collective spirit.
And he was known for his work, right? Described as an eloquent speaker.
Yeah, dedicated his life to exposing how Israel forcibly evicts Palestinians from his village, replaces them with Israeli settlers. That's what No Other Land showed, too.
Yeah.
So his family, naturally, they vow to honor that legacy. But it starts for them with just getting a proper burial.
Which brings us back to the danger he faced and this issue of impunity for settlers.
Yes, and that's absolutely critical here. The sources are clear. Settlers often operate with impunity, and it's apparently gotten even worse since October 7th.
Worse? How so? Are there examples?
Well, the reports give concrete examples, like settlers taking property cattle in one place called Jif League. And if the Palestinian owners reject it or resist, the settlers can come back with the army.
With the army.
Yeah. One source states it very bluntly: the army and the police only exist to protect the settlers and nothing else.
No.
which really underscores the lack of safety for Palestinians, and it helps explain, why Palestinians defending their homes might end up jailed, while settlers involved in violence often walk free with those no evidence claims we talked about.
That's a really stark assessment of systemic bias. Is there any more insight from the sources on how that no evidence claim persists, especially when there's video?
It seems the system itself allows for it. The framework, the legal process, often seems structured to prioritize the narrative that protects settlers. So evidence that might seem clear in another context, it can be dismissed or maybe just not given the same weight. It's less about a literal lack of evidence, perhaps, and more about how that evidence is, processed or even ignored within a system that's seen as biased.
Okay. So shifting a bit, what about reactions? Solidarity. We've seen some protests, right?
Yes. Dozens of Israeli and international activists have marched in West Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv. They're calling for Halen's body to be released and for the detained villagers to be freed. It's not without risk either. 4 people were arrested during those marches, which just highlights the tension.
Right. So there's activism, there's awareness building, but what about actual change? Does this feel different?
Well, the sources acknowledge there have been many cases like this before. And the hard truth seems to be that real, lasting change needs actual international pressure. Pressure on the system that enables this kind of lawless behavior, this kind of killing.
So targeting the system, not just individuals like Levy.
Exactly. Because, as one expert put it quite starkly, settlers don't sprout out of nowhere. They're supported by the state. They get electricity, power, army support, the whole infrastructure. So sanctions on individuals, vigils and marches, while important, they might not be enough on their own. They're described as almost like trying to drain an ocean with a bucket if the state apparatus itself isn't challenged.
That's a sobering assessment. Okay, so we've dug into the details, the personal tragedy, the systemic issues. The question for you, listening, becomes, how does this specific story, this deep dive, resonate with your understanding of justice on a wider scale?
Yeah.
We've seen this intricate picture, haven't we? From the intense personal grief of a family denied even the basic right to bury their son, all the way up to these huge, entrenched systemic problems. Impunity, state support for actions that displace people, it's a lot.
It really hammers home that core message, I think. How denying fundamental rights, denying basic human dignity, it can be a deliberate tactic, a tool.
Yeah.
And it underscores just how critical external awareness and maybe more importantly, sustained pressure actually are if you want to see any real lasting change.
So the final thought we want to leave you with today, in a world just flooded with information, news cycles moving so fast, when we encounter situations like this, situations that are deeply challenging, deeply uncomfortable, what does understanding it all actually mean for us? How does it shape how we think about and maybe engage with ideas of justice, human rights, accountability, not just there, but globally, something to consider.